And then California, I could be open about this one thing, but I found something else to hide being trans. And so I moved from California to Chicago, hoping to find more people to be trans and free and open with.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Perpetual Motion, a podcast focused on wellness, personal growth, culture, and relationships. I'm your host, Dr. Mo Anderson, best-selling author, award-winning podcast host, keynote speaker, and coach. Sometimes I interview expert guests, and sometimes I do a solo show, but know this, my goal is always the same. I want to help you review, renew, and renew. At the end of each episode, you should have learned something that will elevate you to the next level of success. Hey, if you're new to the show or a returning visitor, let's make this official. Click that subscribe button to be notified of new episodes as soon as they are available. Also, please help us grow and reach more listeners by rating the show and leaving a comment. Type in something, not an emoji, just a few words. Help us out. Hey, after 10 years of podcasting, 10 years I've been doing this. For me to say I've never done an episode like this before is a pretty big claim, but is true. Today's guest is Lee Hopkins, better known as Coach Lee. He maintains that 99% of the problem with developing lasting friendships and meaningful relationships is this: we don't put ourselves in the right place. And he's going to teach us how to create lasting friendships. He's also an expert on boundaries and the myths that keep us disconnected. So if you're a regular listener, about now you're thinking a guest on this show talking about boundaries and connectedness is not unique. Well, it is if the expert is a trans man, as in transgender. As Coach Lee says, that's not the crux of his message, but it's part of his journey. Today, let's travel with Coach Lee and see where the journey takes us.
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? I'd rather live like I'm dying than live to die. Any day, my heart is pure, my soul is safe.
Hey, welcome to the show, Coach Lee.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dr. Mo. I'm so glad to be here.
It is my pleasure. I just connected with you when we did the pre-call. It was such a wonderful experience that I just couldn't wait for this day and time to get here.
Same.
Let's start with something you're clearly very good at. What does it mean to be a friend to yourself, and how does that contribute to making lasting friendships?
Well, being a friend to yourself, it is definitely important because being a friend to yourself means that you know who you are. So it's your authenticity. It is what makes you laugh. It's what makes you cry. It's what makes you sad, makes you frustrated. All those things is understanding yourself. And being a friend to yourself, you know what those are so that you can treat yourself well. Because when we talk about friends, we talk about treating them well. Like that's what we hope to have in friendships. We hope to have people who will share the good and the bad with us. That's what we look at friendships for. And we have to be able to do that for ourselves. And when you're a friend to yourself, you know what it is to do like self-care, things that will hurt you, things that will make you feel bad. You need to know what those things are so you can move away from them or you can keep them close to yourself. You have to know that about yourself.
Okay. That's good. As we're talking about ourselves, what are the benefits to developing intimacy with yourself? How do you even do that?
Yeah, well, when you're a friend to yourself, you know about yourself, right? You know about things about yourself. But when you develop intimacy, you understand why. You understand why you know those things about yourself. You understand why something upsets you, why something brings you joy, and you move in the purpose of that. That's intimacy, that's knowledge, deep knowledge of who you are. And the way that I've discovered you find that is by meditation or journaling. Because what journaling will do for you is it will give you the opportunity to reflect on the emotion. You can write it down when you're not in a state of intensity from the emotion. So if you're not in the state of intensity from anger or from frustration, you can sit down and you can reread it when you're in a state of calm. And you can think about what about your environment created this experience for you. And then with meditation, you go a little bit deeper. You go a little bit deeper and you understand why that happened for you. So, intimacy with yourself is a process that all of us must go through to become a friend to ourselves and a friend to others. So, the journey really starts with you inside.
I like that. And I'm big on journaling and self-reflection. And I've
Mhm.
definitely learned to walk away from situations when I'm angry, which makes, some people even angrier that
Angrier.
you don't want to engage. But, I just don't want to go there because I got some deep Fort Worth in me that knows nothing about these letters behind my name. So try to keep a girl under wraps because people I'm like, you don't know what you do. It's better for me to walk away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Trust and believe. But there are people. I don't know, Coach. Today I got to push back a little bit. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's some people who don't. I'm not going to call it maturity, but there are, in my experience, some people who just wouldn't be able to get to that knowledge on their own. If they
Mm-hmm.
keep going through the same cycles, the journaling, meditation, introspection isn't working for them, is there something else they should do? Because you're right, this does really hinder our relationships with other people.
Yeah, definitely. That was my experience. I couldn't figure it out myself.
Mhm.
So I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I was just like, I don't know anybody as a deep, close friend. And I see everybody else being friends. What am I doing wrong? Well, I just need to go find my tribe. That's what I heard. And so when I had an opportunity to move away for college, I met new people from different states, cultures, even international students. And I thought, well, I could find people here. This could be my nope. It wasn't it for me either. I wasn't able to make the kind of friendships. I thought that moving to a new place would help me create a new tribe.
Mm.
But it didn't work. So then I thought, well, the complete state of Ohio is a mess and I need to move. The whole
You
state,
cancel the whole state.
yeah, the whole state is wrong.
Okay.
And I need to go to California where they're more progressive. So
Mhm.
you introduced me as a trans man. And in this time in Ohio, I was presenting as a woman, female, and I
Mhm.
was dating women. So that was like, I'm on the LGBT, but I had to hide that. I didn't feel comfortable sharing that. So I moved to California where it seemed to be more progressive. And I met people. I had a girlfriend, and people, I was comfortable with sharing my girlfriend and talking to people about her. But then I was afraid to tell them that I was trans or wanted to transition.
Mhm.
So instead of working that out with people, I left and I moved to Chicago, where I am today. And here in Chicago, this is where the point where like I couldn't figure it out was that I thought that stepping into becoming a trans man would be my authentic truth and I would be able to connect with people because when I came here, I met people who the queer community who was very helpful to me. They helped me understand what I needed and they were supportive physically, emotionally. Caitlyn Jenner was coming out and I thought, well, I'm feeling safe here and these are my people, but it really wasn't. I wasn't doing something. There was something that I was doing and I just couldn't figure it out. So, someone out there who's doing introspection and they're doing journaling, they need a new perspective. That's
Mhm.
why people like therapists exist. That's why I exist, because I can help you see this new perspective. I know it is the little things that you should know about each other, but you definitely, or you should know about yourself rather, that you can only discover on yourself. But I'm going to help you as a coach or a therapist. They're going to help you see a new perspective to this problem that you have. Because even if you're journaling, you might still be looking at it the same angle. And that's not going to be helpful for you because it wasn't helpful for me. I had to go to therapy and get some new perspective on it.
Good. Yeah, it helps take the blinders off.
Mm-hmm.
If you always had blinders off, you don't realize you don't have peripheral vision. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And to have someone else come along and say, "Hey, buddy, what about let's move these over?" And you're like, "Oh my goodness, all of this was going on." Seriously, it's like I know people my age remember when Oprah used to talk about her aha moments. It's like an aha moment where the clouds just open up, and all of a sudden you not only see the future, you see the present, but you understand things from the past now that they're illuminated and not dark and buried. So
Yeah.
I love you sharing that story. How long was that you were moving from Ohio to California to Chicago running? You were running. How long were you running?
I was running, and I didn't jump from state to state to state just like that. I mean, like I was within the city. And so when I became an adult, like 18, let's say, the longest amount of time I spent in one place was maybe 15 months up until a couple of years ago. I'm 39 now. So every 15 months or so, I was moving. I was running. I was like, these ain't right. This ain't right. Something's wrong. And I just got to move. I got to be somewhere else. And it's only when I decided that I would do something different, I managed to stay in the place that I'm at right now, which is about almost 3 years. I've been here for almost 3 years. So it's been a whole different thing. Yeah.
You just over double your previous record. So.
Yes. And so it was a process, but I was moving for years.
Putting down roots is a good feeling. I mean, that was like being in the military or something. My goodness. And at some point you realize that the only thing consistent in all of this is me.
Exactly. And I'm like, I thought everybody else was the problem. What? This is this ain't right. But also it was empowering to realize that, like, you reach a point where I reached a point where I was like, oh boy, now I have to take responsibility. I can do something. I can actually, if I'm the one that's making all this mess, then that means I can't blame anybody else. That means running's not going to stop. That means changing people ain't going to stop. That means I have to stop and do something different. I have to make the hard change. It's much easier to just complain about me not making friends, saying that everybody else is the problem. But for one thing, to look at myself and say, what am I doing that causes that? And to loop back to the first question, being a friend to yourself, well, I had no idea what I really wanted in other people. And a big theme that come up in my life is that I would blame other people for not giving me what I want, but I could never, ever tell them exactly what it is I wanted from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough position to be in. I like the book Love Languages. It's not the cure-all to everything, but it gave me the words. It gave me the lexicon because I didn't know what it was. I just wasn't feeling it. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty gift. Thanks. You can leave it on the desk. And I appreciated it, but it didn't do anything for me. Oh, but wash some dishes and I didn't ask you to. Oh my God. I'm just like an M&M on the sidewalk today. It's about 103 out there. So support. I like support. That's what it is. I no idea how to say it. I just knew, no, I don't want that. Thank you.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yes, the personal growth and to being able to share. And then you can really be upset with people if you have been specific and concrete and consistent and they still ignore you. That's something different. But you had control. Yeah. It was scary, but you had control. I heard you say, I can change this.
Yeah, right. And just like when you said, to your point, if somebody's concrete or you're concrete and consistent and they're still not listening to you, this is where the power becomes yours, where you get to decide what you're going to do. And I've had so many situations like that where, okay, I'm going to either spend my energy yelling at them, screaming, crying, whatever it is to get them to change their behavior, or I'm going to change my own. Right. Which is easier? Well, yelling and screaming is, but I'm tired of that. I have to change. Dang. And this onus comes on me to make those changes. And it's painful because I really want that person to be the person I want them to be. I really want them to be the friend I want.
Yeah. That is painful, but necessary. It was
Mm-hmm.
necessary. Fantasia has a great song called "It Was Necessary." What, and I think you kind of hit on it, but to make sure that we made the point, what keeps us from being connected with others, even though we may want to be?
I think the what keeps us from being connected is really sharing your truth. So when I talked about moving from Ohio to California to Chicago, I was hiding. I was hiding something, but I wasn't conscious. I wasn't aware of that. So when I was in Ohio, I was hiding the fact that I wanted to date women, and there were some people that I didn't share that with. So instead of trying to talk to them and see how they'd react, I left. I moved to California, and then California, I could be open about this one thing, but I found something else to hide, being trans. And so I moved from California to Chicago, hoping to find more people to be trans and free and open with. But I just found myself hiding the fact that I was trans. And in the group of people who accepted me for being trans, I found something else to hide. See, I was working in a corporate office, and the queer scene is completely different, where people aren't making as much money as I was. And I had my surgeries paid for and all that stuff. I didn't have the same kind of hardships that they did. And so I felt like, well, I can't share my joy about the fact that I've got my surgery paid for, because people are fundraising and they're crowdfunding for this, and they're having a hard time with their parents. And me, I wasn't even connected to my parents.
Right. It was
So
like complaining about your utilities bills to somebody who's, homeless or,
exactly.
living with somebody else. And it's like,
Exactly, just like that. And so I just found something else to hide. And I didn't realize that I was doing that, instead of being open and making this connection with people, or letting them decide how they're going to receive me, how they're going to receive my truth. And so, if I could share this one story about after therapy. So I was going to therapy, and this is 2 or 3 years into me living in Chicago, and I was transitioned already. And I'm talking about how I can't make any friends and blah, blah, blah. And the therapy and group therapy, I learned that it's all part of mindset. Go out there, you can make friends, you can talk to people, just have this mindset to do so. And I thought, you know what, Dr. Mo, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go out with the mindset to meet somebody. I'm going to make a new friend. I went to a comedy club, and sure enough, I met a cool guy, and we're talking, we're chopping it up, having a drink together. And I steered the conversation towards LGBT stuff, just kind of to see how they felt about it. And that they had mentioned to me that they had never seen a trans person before. They don't know why anyone would ever transition. They don't even understand the process. And I thought to myself, this is it. I'm going to share my authentic truth with you, and I'm going to fill in that gap for you of understanding about trans people. And so I tell him I'm a trans man, and he kind of freaks out. He stops talking, he freezes up, and he leaves. Doesn't say anything else to me. He's gone. Boom, gone. That was the thing I was so afraid of.
That was devastating. Yeah.
That was devastating. I was absolutely afraid of. But here's the thing. What I learned is that the time between me finding this out and finding out that we can't be friends was absolutely short. And it was beneficial for both of us. I learned that he wasn't ready to make a friendship with me, and I wasn't ready to make a friendship with him, just because he had set a boundary, essentially. And he said yes to himself. And he was like, Lee, he didn't say anything to me. He just left to preserve himself and how he felt about it. And for me, well, in the past, I would have begged him to be my friend. I would have been like, well, please, I want to share with you why trans people are worthy, why I'm an awesome person. And here's the whole history of it. And they're just not ready. It's like me trying to scream at them and cry and beg them to be somebody they're not. He clearly isn't interested right now, and that's okay. I don't want to change anybody. I want to come as my authentic self. I want to be Lee, and I want to be celebrated. I don't want to have to convince you to celebrate me. No, we're not doing that anymore. So that's what I learned from these kind of things. Is like, well, I was so afraid to share my truth. I was afraid of that reaction. But the only thing I learned, the best thing I learned from that reaction, was that it's not in my best interest or in their best interest to try to force this. And it was just quick and instant, and it saved us a lot of time and energy.
That is such a great perspective, and it applies to so many things. If people are just kind of listening with their mouths open or whatever, going, wow, what an interesting story. So many people I know have been divorced for years before they tell anybody. It's
Wow.
the same thing. You're worried about what the people at the church or what the people at work or how they're going to receive it or what they're going to say. And it starts, I think, in many cases because you hear these comments. I mean, there's constantly comments, homophobic, transphobic, all types of comments. And of course, when you're hearing that, I'm not real comfortable. I was on a college campus being called the N-word, and I was just trying to blend in as much as I could when I was younger. So when you hear things like that, it doesn't make you, naturally want to be authentic and brave. But the point that you make is, I don't need to be around those people. This is not the place for me. That's not the friend for me. So why am I bending myself up like a pretzel and worrying about they're going to find out? I mean, that's it. You are doing everything you can, being an imposter for some people who will not like you if they know who you really are. Wow.
Right, exactly. And then more to that too, on the other side of it, since you really can't tell this in quotes, like I'm a stealth trans, which kind of means that you would look at me and you would think that I'm a cis man, and you wouldn't think otherwise of it unless I told you, right?
Will you
Unless
explain cis man for people who might not be familiar with the terminology? I don't want to make any
I apologize. Yes. So cisgendered man is one who was born a male and assigned male at birth. And so a cisgendered woman is the same, born female and assigned female at birth. So for me, I'm trans. Trans man means I was born female and transitioned to male after some time. So you wouldn't be able to notice.
I wanted you to do that because for those of you who have not updated your language or your mindset, we're not saying normal or average anymore. There is no normal. We're all very different. There's a spectrum of interests, behavior, ethnicities, identities. So update yourself so that you can use the proper terminology. And I say this with this reference in mind. And I told you before I was going to interrupt you, so you're not surprised. I'm old, man. If I don't say this right now, it'll be gone. You're young. You can remember what you were saying. But in my family, my great grandmother was colored. My grandmother was a Negro. My mother she was colored, a Negro, African American, and Black, my generation, and then my grandkids are mixed, and things are constantly changing. I even, my grandson, when he told me, he's like, people keep asking me what I am, my oldest grandson. I was like, what do you say? He said, I'm mixed. And I kind of looked at him. I was like, is that okay to say?
Exactly.
Because I was like biracial, and he's like, no, we're fine. It's mixed. That's what we say. I'm a little bit of everything. And I was like, really? Aren't we all?
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. And if we would just see that, then nobody's really different. We're all a little bit of one another. That's our common humanity.
Exactly. I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I had to put myself on mute because I kept laughing. I was just like, yes, get that knowledge out right away while it's relevant.
Yes. So thank you for helping us with the definitions. I like the level set, so we all know we're talking about the same thing and nobody goes off down a Google rabbit hole.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the whole point of us talking, of us just being in each other's space. And I mean, not you and me, but I mean, humans in general, is that we want to be understood for who we are. And that would bring me back to the point where I started to make friends with people and I didn't tell them that I was trans. And I made a really nice connection with another person, a man who I was cool with him. We had really great conversations, talked about things that I couldn't talk about with other people just because they didn't understand. But when I wanted to talk about things that were specifically related to being trans, like me dating people and getting rejected, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't talk about that. I couldn't talk about that with them because they didn't know. They didn't know why I was getting rejected. They didn't know the insecurity that it was. So there again, I'm hiding something about myself and I'm not making this real, genuine connection. I don't have the support that I need. And my friend doesn't even know that they how to support me because they don't even know that there's a real problem.
Wow. And they're thinking everything's cool. You
Right.
guys
They
are
think
tight.
everything's
You
cool.
know each other. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Exactly. And so I believe that we're all working with something like that. Like you talked about how people are divorced and they don't share with people because they're afraid of what's going to happen, but they
Judgment.
need
Yeah.
support in that. Divorce isn't easy. That's not easy. They need somebody to cry with. They need somebody to laugh with. They need some just company sometimes and to talk about specifically what's happening in the divorce. Holding all that stuff in is just going to make you feel lonely. And so that's what I discovered. And I really want to help people understand that that's not the way. The hiding the little things, we're all doing that at some capacity. It just
Right.
happened to manifest in me as being a trans man.
And I know a lot of people feel like they're going to be oversharing. I think sometimes we take the privacy thing too far. And I'm glad. I mean, I know I just tell everything. I'm not expecting anybody to be like that, but I know emotionally, mentally, spiritually, yeah,
Hmm.
maybe you grew up with what happens in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
But if it is just wreaking havoc inside of you, eating you up, and to your point, you don't have support. I mean, I've
Mm-hmm.
been through major illnesses with my cancer. I've been through a divorce. I've lost people who were so near and dear to me to death. And just to, for me and the way I'm made, the way I interact with the world, I need to talk about it. I need help. I need support. I can't imagine just going through those things by yourself. There are people here to help and assist us with that process. And maybe it's not, this friend or that friend, but to not be able to talk to anyone about what's really, really going on in your life, that's just such a superficial relationship. You're
Mm-hmm.
just really bringing home some points here. Thank you so much, Coach Lee. Face in there.
So I have a curiosity that popped up because you mentioned oversharing, and I'm working through some stuff with my mom. Like my mom and I am trying to connect with her on a deeper level, and there is just something about her that won't release or won't talk about some stuff. And I'm like, why is that? Because I know that being a millennial, I'm
Mhm.
born in '83, so I'm almost 40. But in my age, I'm like, let's talk. And their generation's like, I don't even know what I'm feeling.
No,
What are you talking about?
hey, that's how we were brought up as a freaking ice age. I'm an anomaly. Because, I'm not trying to say I'm unique. There are a lot of people, but it's something we had to learn. We did not grow up. My parents, everybody's parents literally said, what happens in this house stays in this house. So,
Hmm.
whether it was in this, I'm not being specific to my household, but I can think of examples of, I know people who were being abused, and domestic abuse, kids being abused,
Hmm.
financial problems, really needing help, just so many things. You just did not talk about it. I mean, I talk about my journey with cancer all the time. They literally, when I was young, we said the C word. We didn't even say the word.
Oh, wow.
If we even actually said what was wrong with somebody, other than they just couldn't make it, they were ill. It was ingrained. And I'm going to say, Lee, that a lot of it came from segregation. And during the period of, even during the early civil rights movement, even though legislation had passed, could still be so many consequences to somebody finding out that you own something or that this particular event had happened. You know about the Tulsa race
Oh,
riots.
yeah.
There were so many instances like that where you didn't have anybody to turn to outside of your home. So it would be, it was kind of insular. And I think that just kind of got passed down. And it's something that we're having to unlearn with my kids, with your generation, with the young ones who just post every doggone thing. You're like, I don't need to see every time you eat. Come on, every meal. So it's we have gone, even race-wise, we thought we'd gone from the racial constipation of our forefathers to the racial amnesia of the younger generation. And yet we find that because we didn't resolve those things, here we are again in practically a race war. And something I never thought I'd see, with all of these emotions coming out from all groups. So
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
hiding stuff, not talking about it, not dealing with it, isn't working for us, y'all.
I agree. Wow. I thank you for that perspective, because I'm like, I don't get it. I mean, it's so freeing and so such and such for me, but to be able to understand it from that angle is really helpful for me. And I appreciate that. And because I think that really what we need to do to heal our connections with people is, when I talk to people, actually, there are three things that I make sure that go into the conversation. It's like, I'm paying attention to the data, the information that they're sharing with me. And then I'm also pay attention to how they feel about that, the emotions behind it. And then finally, the validation. The validation is the thing that really makes the connection.
Yes.
It is based on everything that you have told me, the data and the feeling that you are justified in feeling the way you do. It's not about me having the feelings. It's about me understanding you. And it's not agreeing to disagree, which so many people like to do, but doesn't really make that connection. It's a demonstration that I understand your journey. I understand your experience. It's not mine, but I understand it. And that's what we all want. That's what we're all looking for. So just to flip it back at our nation, we have not done that. The US has not really done that for some Black people. So Black people, they have not really done that and really validated the experience on a national acceptable level.
Wow. Yeah, we had to pause. Yeah, we're still here. Just think on that. That was good. That was good. Way to wrap it up. And you turn the tables on me, asking me a question. I like that. More of that. Very good. Well played. I saw that. Don't think you slipped that past me. I saw that. Very well played. So, Coach Lee, I find connection is easy. I make friends. I establish rapport pretty easily. I had to learn that skill. It's not innate for me. I was very introverted, painfully introverted as a child. However, maintaining meaningful relationships with so much going on, with all of the, things pulling at us, whether it's technology or work or whatever it is, the grind, the side hustle that we're trying to do, that part, that's challenging. What are some of the attributes of a lasting friendship? And I guess the way I couch that question is just, how do we do it in addition to the attributes, the qualities of a lasting friendship?
How do we develop a friendship in the midst of everything that's happening? Well, I firmly believe that you can't make a friend unless you're a friend to yourself. So learning about you and your experiences in your life and how you deal with those things are what makes a friend, or makes a friend to yourself. So we hadn't quite talked about boundaries, but in depth, but I'd like to touch on them in this point,
let's go into that.
Because I believe that boundaries aren't about saying no and setting limits on other people. You can't control other people. You can only control yourself. And what I believe boundaries are is specific to each event. They're specific to events that happen in your life, and they create the shape of you. It's more about saying yes to yourself than anything else. So when you have an experience, your body and your mind log that experience. They log it with an emotion and an action, how you felt in that situation and how you behaved. And unconsciously, that has been a program that's been running in your life. You feel this way and you act and you don't know why. Like you talked about the five love languages. You don't quite know why. But when you start to discover why, you start to discover how you feel and you can name the situation, you can specifically call it out, the specific actions and behaviors that invoked a feeling in you that made you act a certain way. That is self discovery. That is you learning who you are. And once you're able to vocalize that, that is a boundary. And we want to create ourselves, a shape of ourselves, essentially. When we're able to vocalize that and we share that with another person, they now know us. They now know how to respond to us. If we do something, if they do something that is against our boundary or something that upsets us, and we explain to them what you did, you came in, you threw your shoes on the floor, and you just left them. That's upsetting to me. And I get upset. I get angry with that. So I would like you not to do that. Essentially, you're kind of setting a boundary. But if they decide that they're going to come in, they reflect that back to you. You know, they heard the information, they heard how you felt about it. And they said, yeah, I can see why you get upset. And then they come in the next day and they throw the shoes on the floor. Then you know that, you know, there's something that you have to address right there. But you know it, you're able to vocalize it, and you have an understanding with each other. And that's the important thing. That is how you'll make a connection with another person. You'll be able to tell if they're really have your best interest in mind, if they're really interested in seeing you be well and seeing you feel joy, because they will behave a certain way. And there's no guesswork like I used to do. There's no guesswork about it. Like I want
and
you
it's
to
reciprocal, right?
yeah, I want you to automatically do something, but I'm not going to tell you how to make me happy. Like you have to be able to share that with people. You have to say specific actions and behaviors to help them be happy. And so, or that they can do that will show joy for you. So I have a 3N framework I call the needs, negotiables, and nevers when you're creating boundaries. Your needs, negotiables, and nevers. So your needs are specific actions and behaviors that someone can do for you to bring you joy. Joy. And we look at joy because that's something that you want to keep in your life. You want to keep in your life. Negotiables are like the ones that are they're so. They don't really have a big impact on you. And then there's your nevers. There's specific actions and behaviors that you want to share with people. You can do X, Y, Z, and this will upset me, or this brings me sadness. And you share that with them, and they have an understanding of who you are and what you are like. And then they can act accordingly. The only thing you can do with boundaries is tell people what they are for you, essentially tell them the shape of who you are. So boundaries and letting people know who you are help you create friendships and relationships because they know what to expect from you.
That was very well said. And I was getting to the framework. That was the perfect place for it. So you inserted the piece in the puzzle right at the time and the place that it went. And I'm a word person. I love language. It's just so beautiful. Now, that's really my ultimate gift, is to give me some words, some really nice, pretty meaningful words. And I am so happy. So you said you create the shape of you. I'm like, that is so a Summer Walker heard Teyana Taylor song right there. A song title. That is just such a beautiful song. I just thought that briefly. I was listening, but I just
well, that's wonderful.
Such a lovely turn of a phrase, the shape of you. So anyway, somebody get that to them. I don't know those people. All right. Make sure Coach Lee gets credit, gets their writer's credit. All right, listen, you are all over social media. You're like omnipresent. I saw some of your TikTok videos though, and you are so really good. You're funny, and anyone can hear you engaging, but you're great at using that tool to teach. It's not just to dance or do a challenge. You're great at using it to teach these very concepts we're discussing today. Overall, though, how has social media helped or hurt connectedness and friendship? Everybody's your Facebook friend now, your Instagram friend, your Twitter bill, Twitter people, Twitter company. I don't know what they call them. But
I don't know what they call them either. Eh.
Put a rowdy, I don't know.
Well, I think that our friendships are hurt because it makes it easier for us to show one side of ourselves, just one intense emotion, and that's usually what we show. We try and show the joy, or we'll show anger or sadness. That those are like the big three that I see most often. Like
Good
people are
point.
like, I'm on vacation and taking pictures of them at the beach and having a Mai Tai. And there's some people that are sad, especially what I do in the loneliness groups. They're just there and they're not really making uh, an effort to do anything different, but to show the sadness and how lonely and miserable they are. And they're showing that, but there's more facets to their personality, and we don't get to connect with them. And people who are angry, they're yelling about politics all the time. There's more facets to their personality. We're just not able to see them. So it doesn't really allow them to connect with us, because to be a friend, I keep talking about emotions, but we are connected by emotions. And all we want to do is understand how we want someone to understand how we feel about something, because the connection is not made in the events that we share together or the experience that we share together. It's about how we feel about the experience. And you can imagine taking someone to a movie, like a Marvel movie. I'm over there like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you see it? Thanos snapped his finger and everybody disappeared. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're like, I didn't really like it. I don't like you.
Like, what, did you see the movie? I just saw what he said.
Right? Exactly. We want to connect on that experience. And there's a way to bring us together from that. But the instant connection is from you feel the same way about what I feel the same way about. And you get on social media and you get into echo chambers of I'm angry and you're angry. And that feels like connection, but it's only one emotion. It's only one thing. There's more facets to the person. So we don't make a friendship with them. We're just kind of connected with them in this one intense emotion. So it brings people together to get that pseudo experience of being connected, but it doesn't allow us to develop deep friendships because we can't see other sides of the personality. We want people who can see you when you're sad, seeing you're angry, seeing you when you're frustrated or disgusted, despondent, all the emotions. You want to be able to share that with another person so they can support you in that way, and vice versa. And if it's only one, you don't feel really connected. You're just like, this is what I do because I guess it feels good for a moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's really, really good. Yeah, we do. I can't imagine a diamond with one facet or a novel, a protagonist with, just one emotion. We would recognize it there, but maybe missing that on social media, the people that we really, really like and we really, really hate based on the highlights and lowlights of their life, that we really don't know them.
Exactly. That's well said. Very well said. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. This has been so eye-opening. You have shared so much and been so genuine and unique, as I promised at the beginning of the show. I don't know what people thought they were going to hear, but I hope that they enjoyed what they heard as much as I did. There were a lot of great, great teachable moments, lots of tweets, lots of good energy. I am very appreciative of you, Coach Lee, for allowing us to accompany you on this small part of your journey. And I wish you continued success as you go forward, brother.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mo. I appreciate that.
Wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and renew. Thank you.